Hi, Double-Edged Stories peeps. This is Sally with my story. Every summer, my wife and I leave city life in Louisville behind to take our young twin daughters on a fun-filled road trip up to a rural area in western New York, where my family is from. The key is regular stops and lots of snacks. For me, I mean, the girls are fine, but it takes a grueling 12 plus hours through Kentucky, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and finally New York State. When we arrive at the homestead, we reach for our jackets, it's always colder up there, and take a deep breath of clean country air. You see, before I came along in the 70s, my hippie parents had this crazy dream of buying their own land and building their own house and growing their own food. The crazier thing is they actually did it. As 20-somethings, they didn't know what they were doing and they hadn't had any money, but they figured it out. My mom, who had recently graduated with a degree in music, somehow drew up the blueprints. There are photos of my dad with his hammer and that little pocket belt thing you put nails in, leaning up against a wood frame. They had a few friends that helped with laying the foundation and some of the electric, but they did everything else with no YouTube videos. When we moved in, I was 2 years old, and the 8mm home movies show me coming down the stairs on Christmas morning, sort of nonchalantly walking around a large table saw to get to the Christmas tree. Definitely a work in progress. The floors were bare, but slowly, as my sister and then finally my brother came along, so did the carpet and the wallpaper, and last but not least, the doorknobs. Now, many years later, my siblings and I make the pilgrimage back every summer to this same 60 acres to escape the loud city life and reconnect with the pleasures of this nostalgic work of art. This is the place that taught me beauty. It's where I learned to look up at the light through the leaves while walking down the long driveway that winds back into the woods each day after school. It's where the wind across the pond says something in a way that nothing else can. This last summer was no different. I wandered over to the garden to look for sweet peas and ripe blueberries. I sat outside at dusk listening to the chorus of bird song as the moon came up, and it seemed to point to something beyond itself, something true and wild and graceful. These days, I'd forgotten how necessary beauty was to my survival. After having twins a few years ago and maintaining a stressful full-time job, I'd been living in sort of a numbing blur of racing to daycare and flagged emails, people in trauma, frozen burritos. Now I could feel parts of myself just coming back to life. Spaces like this are not a luxury, but a necessity to overcome chaos in a multitasking, multi-device world. And one of the best things about toddlers in that world is how they practice mindfulness so easily, living wholly and non-judgmentally in the present moment. We found ourselves doing things like standing on the porch, listening to the rain in the woods, and getting all excited because we spotted a toad casually hop across the path. This somehow is similar to the scenes of my sister and I in our early home movies. We're just sort of wandering around outside, being present. In one scene, we are simply hopping together on one foot across the kitchen floor. Yeah, we didn't have a lot of cultural influences or trips to the zoo, but there was also no pollution and no traffic reports and no sirens in this secluded place. But don't get me wrong, during these escapes, I mean, there was still embarrassing tantrums in front of relatives, political dissonance, too much rain, but for the most part, this land has always been a kind of shelter to me. And when I come down that driveway, I'm a skinny, nature-loving tomboy again, catching fireflies and picking milkweed, as one does. Well, one night while I was there last, my mom confided that she doesn't know how much longer they can keep up with this place. Even though they have a dishwasher now, and Dad got the 360 riding lawnmower a few years ago, it still takes a lot of work. As I watch my dad walk more slowly out to the garden to check that the fence is keeping the deer out of the peas, and as I notice the effort it takes my mom to water all her petunias, I know our days here are numbered. So soon, these rare and glittering moments will be gone, which makes it all the more beautiful.